Blade. Ready to die.
I was born ready, mother.
Welcome, good people. My name is Salim Busuru, the creative director at Avandu Studio. We make comic books based on African culture for kids, young adults, and qualified adults. In this video, we show you the creation process of the Blade art poster, and as you watch that, we give you our thoughts and insights regarding art and the art industry from our perspective as Africans in Africa. And today's hot topic is how exposure pays me. I know it's a bit much, but hey, I had to make you click. So enjoy the video, and I hope that the content is helpful to you. Exposure is a hot topic that regularly pops up on my social media timeline in the form of jokes and hot debates, which all boil down to we cannot eat exposure. And so it got me thinking, has exposure fed me? Have I actually eaten through exposure? In this video, I talk about my answers to these questions. Okay, let's go about it this way. Let's start with the advantages and then go into the disadvantages and also look at it from a different perspective. And that is of the guy offering the opportunity, who is promising exposure as a reward. You know, what could be on his mind? Because I also realize that I am that guy. And then finally, finish off with points to consider when thinking about an exposure offer. Okay, advantages. How did exposure benefit me? Number one, it got me into the industry. It got me into freelance illustration. Straight out of high school, no one knew me and I didn't know anyone, but I did an illustration gig for a friend of mine for free. And that gig is what I used to show around when I knocked on doors, looking for an opportunity here and there. And I did get one to illustrate for an NGO through a subcontract. That was kind of a one-off, because mostly at the time, I made many logos and album artworks and posters, basically for free. I didn't get paid because the best a young rapper can offer is exposure. And but hey, that works because the work became part of my portfolio because it was functional work, meaning it was made for a purpose, not just for art's sake. And so potential clients could see the value in it. Number two, it's got me my first full-time job. I once worked at an awesome ad agency here in Nairobi called Zilojo for about 2 years. Now, this one may not really qualify because it was a project initiated by me and my brother Evans. And it made zero money, but it definitely got us exposed. It was a small game project called Kade. But the exposure from that is what got us in front of Zilojo through our friend Kevin Karash. So we got a meeting and the rest is history. I was paid well for about 2+ years. I got fat. And in addition to that, my brother also got a job offer off that game. And as a bonus, we got a fully sponsored trip to go to Germany for the 2015 Gamescom Expo because of it. All expenses were paid. It was courtesy of the Goethe Institute. Took a bunch of us game developers out there, and we appreciate them for that. Number three, I think from then on, it has been myself and my team initiating projects on our own that have gotten us exposure. Comic book titles like Rovik and Beast from Venus and Dunamis that have gotten us work with multiple big studios like Triggerfish and other large companies who I can't mention here because of NDAs and ongoing work, but you know them. And very soon, hopefully, you'll be able to see that work. Okay, now let's move on to the dark side. How has doing things for exposure disadvantaged me? Number one, I wasted my time on some of these gigs as they led to nowhere. I almost cried sometimes. But I console myself because some of that work I did, I've been able to incorporate in other client projects that paid. Good thing is ideas don't rot. But I think this is the biggest loss, time, which is our most valuable asset. Number two, I made someone else look good who didn't let the shine flow downhill. Well, I don't think that's the worst thing that could have happened, because I have not had my ideas stolen from me, thank God. But I have heard of stories where people's ideas are stolen and the thief runs with it and benefits from it. So yeah, I consider myself lucky. Okay, now I know the disadvantages are a short list, but that's what I've experienced so far. If you have experienced more disadvantages from exposure, please share them in the comments below so that we can all learn and grow from it. Now, let's look at it from the perspective of the guy offering the exposure, aka me and probably you in the future when you have that awesome idea that you can't finance yet, but you know people who can execute it. So, this is my context. I'm running a small studio that has big ambitions with limited finances, where the comic industry is non-existent, and so we are building it. This has been my experience. Number one, it's a risk, although I was and still am of the belief that all work must be paid, and so when I couldn't get the people who I wanted to collaborate with me, I tried my best to always pay the young artist who I would like to onboard on a project. But what happened in most cases is that they could not handle it. And then I ended up having to do their parts. So it's like I've paid you, but I'm still working on your part. It just made me more careful and just more appreciative of, sometimes it's not so black and white, Number two, some of these projects require that you believe in it. Because at the end of the day, a project is a project. They encounter challenges, and if you're only there for the money, you will quickly abandon it once things get tight, because you have to take care of number one. So talking about exposure is a good way to see who can kind of weather the storm with you, And I know this is controversial, but I stand by it. And I also think this is why these exposure opportunities are mostly for young people, because they have the leeway to take bigger risks on things, because they don't yet have huge responsibilities. So whether or not it fails, if you assess this exposure project based on the points that I will give you later, I think you will have gained valuable experience from it. Point number 3, which is my last point on this, which I also think is quite overlooked based on my experience dealing with people, is that you'll be learning from the guy giving you the exposure. They will have to share their insights and networks with you for the sake of the project. Industry knowledge that you might never get in school. And in side note, this is also why I think apprenticeship is good for artisans. But that's a topic for another day. You can gain a lot of knowledge and insights on an exposure gig, but you have to think it through before going in. Okay, so I hear someone say, but we have social media. We have all the exposure we need. Right now, we need to get paid for our work, and if we need skills, we can get tutorials on YouTube. Well, that's true, but to a point. You don't need everyone to know about you, but you do need the right people to know about you. It's not just about likes and followers. And industry knowledge can be the difference between you charging $100 or $10,000 for the same exact time, effort, and skills that you put into a job. Now remember, this is just my personal opinion from my experience, and I don't have this down to a science. But I would say if you want exposure to work for you, then at least have the below points figured out. Okay, in regards to you as a person, number 1, have a clear vision of where you want to be in 10 years' time in your career. Have clear goals and steps that get you there so that you know where this exposure plugs into that plan. Number 2, have the best understanding you can of your industry so that you can more reliably assess the potential of the network you're being plugged into through this project. Number 3, have a good understanding of your skill level so that you know how much time it will take to do what this person is asking of you, so that you can plan your other work around it and not starve. Points to consider regarding the project. Number 1, where is the project going? Who is involved in it? Who is going to see it? Who is going to engage with it? These questions will give you an idea of its value to you. Number 2, have a clear agreement on what is required of you and what credits/benefits you're going to receive for it. Number 3, have clear timelines and stipulations as to what happens to the work if the project stalls halfway. Can you continue on your own? Are you allowed to put it in your portfolio? Those kind of questions. Like, can it still benefit you even if the project has been cut short? Number 6, the project has to be something that has not been done before or done before in that way. You don't want to be reinventing the wheel for free. If it's something that you're doing for free, it needs to be something that is pushing your abilities and your portfolio to the next level. Number 7, the initial promise is exposure, yes. But does this have the potential to make money? Is that factored in? You can discuss that with the guy, and maybe this exposure gig might transform into a paying gig. Just think things through. At the end of the day, exposure is not a good or bad thing. Personally, I think it's neutral. It all depends on what your goals and dreams are, and if you have mapped them out such that you can assess whether an exposure opportunity gets you closer to you achieving your dreams or not. And I think exposure is best for someone starting out and still young in the industry. But I believe it still works for those trying to get out of their comfort zone or out of a lane that they have been in for too long and want to try new things. Now guys, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying do things for free. I'm saying do things that advance you towards achieving your goals and dreams. And I think that's it. Okay, if this video has been helpful to you, please like and subscribe. Also, if you disagree or agree, please tell me why in the comments below. And if you have more insight into this, please share in the comments below. Also, this is our first video, so what we also need is your comments and feedback on how we can improve things going forward. Thanks in advance. Thank you for watching the video. Basically, after consuming awesome entertainment in the form of comics, manga, anime, cartoons, video games, movies, and many more forms of entertainment, I started getting a hunger for entertainment that showcased African mythology. Like, where was the African equivalent of Lord of the Rings? I wanted to see Kratos come to Africa next and battle the Yoruba gods. Like, how would it go if Harry Potter had to battle a Sangoma? These ideas got me very excited, and when I calmed down and thought about the African mythologies that I have read, I realized that they are quite exciting in their own right. They simply needed a bit of love and care so that the world can once again enjoy the myths and legends and cultures from the cradle of mankind. So please join us on this journey of rediscovery by liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't yet. You can also go to our website where you can get a free comic and also find out more about who we are and what we are doing. And lastly, please click on the link in the description to purchase our latest comic titles. Or if you simply want to donate and assist us on this journey we are on, the link to our Patreon is also below. We really appreciate your support. Until next time, God bless you.